All right, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Saturday physics and science lecture, I guess. And so my name is Ralf Wessel, as you see up there. I'm a physicist by training, and I apply physics to neuroscience. And in recent years, I also got very much interested in AI. And in more recent years, I also got very much interested in making mosaics, because these are pieces that you see out here. And so when I started making these mosaics, and I thought, oh, this is so much fun, and but can I combine it with my professional work? And then I started thinking about, well, if I make mosaics, wouldn't I be able to use principles from AI or tools from AI and from science, specifically is the study of aesthetics, and principles from art making, and sort of mash it all together and make mosaics that are more engaging than we typically see. And so that is what leads to this beautiful title, Mosaics and brAIns. And using the principles from brain science to make mosaics, and in the process use AI as a tool as well. And so that's what I'm going to present to you today. It's I will go through that in a moment. So what we are going to do, and what you see, by the way, several people ask me what are all these mosaics. Well, these are mosaics that I made over the last 2 years, and I'm very proud of them, and that's why I love this opportunity to show them to you. And so that's what we have. Before we dive into the topic, I really would like you to meet the team. And so I'm fortunate to work with a wonderful team of undergraduate students, actually. And so these are 5 undergraduate students who work with me on this topic. And it is, as a professor, it's a real perk to work with young people. And so that's something I really enjoy. And I consider this a perk that I probably wouldn't get in other like industry or so, and similar. There are also 2 graduate students who work with us. And then as an artist, you will meet her sort of virtually in a way in a moment. So she worked with us on a particular project. There are honorary members of the team. And so the honorary members of the team is our dean. So our dean of arts and sciences is actually a really gutsy guy. And he has a really big vision to move things forward. And he asked a few years ago, he asked faculty, well, just come up with ideas and send them to me. And if you think it's cool, then you get the money. And so he called this the incubator. He and his leadership team, they called it the incubator for transdisciplinary futures. And so then I thought, okay, so that's cool. I'm going to submit my stuff on AI and neuroscience. And he thought that was cool, and we got some money. And what he didn't know is that I was going to take it further to AI and neuroscience and mosaics. But he's still happy with the way it's going. And so that's all good. Then I would like to introduce the second honorary member. And that is my wife. And now you might wonder, how did my wife get onto the team? And well, for those of you who are married, you probably know. And the story goes like this. So I was making a mosaic and in my studio, and this is the mosaics that I made. And I called it War and Peace. And so I came out of the studio and showed it. I only show it to my wife when it's all done, because I know she has a lot of comments, and I don't want the comments early on. I want them at the end, but then I want them. And she looked at it, and so you can form your own opinion what you think about this. And and she said, well, it's okay, it's nice, it has nice colors, but it's so push you down, and it's so depressing. And then she turned it around, and then she really liked it, and then she said, oh, I have a title for this as well, and let's call it Out of the Darkness. Darkness, Out of the Darkness. And and actually I liked that as well. I thought this is really cool. And so that's now how it's hanging in my office these days, in this position and not the other position. And although I did like the topic War and Peace, and so I went back to the studio, I made another piece, and so I just extended the black part higher, and so this is War and Peace, and I keep that one up. And so this does not make sense the other way around, and so it's safe, and so that's great. So now why am I telling this story? And there's actually a reason for that, and so this leads us to that when artists make art, then it's actually, the artist is here, the artist has an idea, and they start drawing it and out, and then as a mosaic artist, then we fabricate the mosaic, and eventually we make the mosaic. And so this, by the way, is this mosaic here, what you see up there. And so I'm going to pass this around. So let's see whether we can pass it along. Be careful when you touch it, or you're welcome to touch it, but there are some sharp edges on there because it's glass, of course. And anyway, so I make, so this is the artwork. Yeah, I can pass this along to some of the next people, and maybe it goes easier. It's a little denser here. And so then, if the artist is lucky, the artwork will make it out of the studio, and somebody will look at it. So the viewer will look at it, and and then the viewer will have an opinion about this, and and this is based on many, many different things, on their own subjective preferences, on context, info about. They might know something about the artist, and and with some luck, the artist will receive that feedback. Most of the time, they actually don't. And so most of the time, this artwork will be hanging somewhere, and and that's it. And the only feedback that the artist might get, well, did it sell? That's good feedback. Did it make it into a museum? That would be a good feedback. Did it make it into a juried exhibit? That's a great feedback too. So all of these are great. And so what I'm sort of interested in is that this is sort of a system, but I wonder whether this system could be improved in the sense that this communication between the artist and the artwork and the viewer, whether this could be enhanced somehow. And so I'm asking the question whether generative AI and science can assist in this communication between the artist and the viewer. And in that process, make, hopefully, more engaging artwork. And this, because of my hobby making mosaics, the entire talk is focused on mosaic art. But everything I'm saying here today would be equally applicable to any other visual art form. And so from here on, then so this is what we want to do. So we want to see whether we can enhance this communication. Is there a question? Yeah, bingo, great, okay, thank you.
So this statement takes it beyond the creation of a piece.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. So it goes. It does not see the creation of the piece as an isolated event, but as a communication with others. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. And so now I'm going to tell you in 4 projects how we're addressing this question, hopefully, and then we go from there. And so. The first project, we are asking whether, to what extent using generative AI can help in this process of making the artwork. And so that's what we're planning to do. And so here's what we did. I worked with an artist here, so the mosaic artist. She had never used AI. And I told her about this, about my interest of using AI in this process, and she was actually very open to the idea. And so she said, okay, I have an idea that I always wanted to explore. So her idea was, I am not like you. You know, many of us often have gone through that experience. We are in some kind of a community, and we feel like we don't really belong here, and we are not really like you. I'm not like you right now because you're the audience and I'm the speaker. And although I feel sort of connected to you. And so So that's what she wanted to explore, and so she gave me some background on that. And then what I did, I turned this her idea into a long query to feed into ChatGPT. And so I told them, ChatGPT, that I'm a mosaic artist and that I want to explore this topic. I'm not like you. And then I made it more specific. The answers that I wanted were twofold. I wanted it to give me, tell me more about the topic, so give me sort of like a deep dive into the topic so that I understand this topic better as an artist. And then second, give me text prompts that then I can use to feed into yet another AI to make actually images, to generate images. So many of you probably have played with that. There's all these image generators. You put in some words and then boom, a beautiful image pops out. And but the better your prompt is, the better is the image that comes out. And so it's actually a good idea to use ChatGPT to actually suggest the text prompts to you and then use those into those images. And ChatGPT, and the version I used was 5.1, delivered. And it gave me, it's long, very long. So, but I'm just giving you what it did. It gave me a really deep conceptual exploration, and it gave me a set of text prompts. So I sent that to the artist, and she really liked that deep exploration. She said, "This is really cool. This can help me with the design of the mosaic that I want to do." And then I sent her 6 text prompts that ChatGPT had come up with, and she said, "I like those too. They actually widen my creativity. I had never thought of these type of text prompts." And so that was great. Then what I did not send her is the images that were afterwards generated by AI. And we both agreed we don't do that. We do that later. So this way she would be independently, she would form, based on the text prompt, she would form her own ideas, draft her own thing, and then once it's all done, we compare it with what AI would have generated. And so by now maybe you read all of this. So this was the text prompts, the classical mosaic, style of Roman, blah, 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 a perfectly uniform tessera and muted tone, so it's like a background. And then at the edge, there's one tessera that's wildly colorful. That's the eye, right? The background is the different people. And or here, a contemporary mosaic and broken tessera fragments at bottom gradually resemble unique, beautiful, irregular pair. So this was sort of the idea that there's broken stuff at the bottom, meaning I don't feel like, I'm not like you, so I feel sort of broken, and then, but I grow out of it. And that was actually one point that the deep dive emphasized, that a lot of people who have this experience of feeling left out, they tend to be very successful later on in life. And so there's sort of social studies on that, and that's sort of the idea that pops out here in this text prompt, that out of this broken pieces, something beautiful might emerge. And so she sort of synthesized these things and came up with a draft. So she, as an artist, so she drafted it out. And so here's her draft. Here's the background, the sort of the dull-looking background. Here's sort of the sort of broken pieces that are sort of growing into something nicer. And eventually she made it, so this is a view of her mosaics that she actually made. And so you see the background, you see that on purpose, the colored eye is actually on top of the background. So the background is left behind, so to speak. And and then in the end, now you get to meet her. So here's Carolina. She was a mosaic artist who had the guts to work with me on this. And this is what she said. So I read the ChatGPT responses and find them very interesting. The conceptual exploration, so the deep dive, as well as the text prompts. It's funny that I was expecting some drafts. So she was initially expecting that I would send her images. And but we did not do, and I will not even show them to you. And but the text is much more interesting because it still gives me the space to create my own draft. And so, yes.
Could it have made images as she wanted?
Say that again.
Could it have made images as she wanted?
So we did compare the images later. So it made images, and we both looked at them, and they did not have the same depths as what she prepared. And so yeah, so there was a difference. And so to summarize this first project, then what we did in this communication between the artist and the viewer, we actually worked on this part of making the mosaic. And so we took her idea. I'm not like you. I wrote the query for ChatGPT. ChatGPT gave the deep dive. The artist used the deep dive. The ChatGPT also wrote the text prompts. The artist used the text prompts. It could have gone this way, that we take the images and then the artist immediately fabricates a mosaic. It's sort of like an immediate interpretation. We did not do that. And again, the purpose was, what we learned from this is that by this part can enhance the creativity. Once you show images, the creativity collapses to a much narrower space. And and it may not even be as good. And so that was the first project that we explored. Question?
Before we get any further, why are we dealing with just mosaics as opposed to any other form of artwork?
Yes, exactly, because I love them. That's it. And so I love these mosaics. I love what I do. And as I mentioned earlier, everything I'm saying here is equally applicable to any visual art form that you might want to make. So if you are a painter, you're welcome to use all of this.
How about music?
That's harder. I'm not sure how to do it yet. And but in principle, yes. In principle, the same. Yeah.
Like a lot of songs, though.
Yeah, right. So it's just not my expertise. And but yes, in principle, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, thank you. That's a very good question. I have gotten that question many times when I applied recently for fellowships, and then they asked me, so why mosaics? And every time I have to come up with something original, because I cannot just say I love it. And anyway, okay, that was project 1 out of 4. And so now let's do the second project. So the second project, remember we're interested in the communication. And so now we would like to know whether we can enhance this communication loop by studying the way the viewer sees the mosaic. So earlier we studied how generative AI can assist the artist making the mosaic. And now we're going to study how aesthetics, especially computational aesthetics, can assist us in better understanding how the viewer sees the mosaic, or visual art for that matter, any other visual art. And so that's what we are going to do, and it's a fairly straightforward approach. And so what we did, we asked people to look at mosaics and ask them how much do you like it. Okay, so I show you this mosaic and I ask you how much do you like it, and give me a number between 1 and 4. And 1, you don't like it, and 4, you love it. You don't have to say it now. You might offend me. And give it a 2. Okay, great. You'll give it a 2. So now we know. So we get a 2. If I ask somebody else, since you are the musician.
3.5.
3.5. Okay, so here we go. It's different. That's the point. So different people obviously have a different opinion about this. And which is of course cool. For artists, we love the diversity in there. But so now, if we want to get a better understanding how people like it, we need a lot of images and a lot of people. And so that's what we do. We sort of surf the web, and we found 980 pieces of mosaics, or images of mosaics. There are of course many more, but that's how many were useful. They had good images. And then we asked 130 participants, and the student who working with me, she actually just told me we're up to 400 right now, but I don't have the data here right now. But we are at this point we have 130 participants, and and then we sort this in such a way that we ask a participant, well, look at this image for like 30 seconds or so, and then tell me, is it anywhere? Give me a number between 1 or 4, whether you like it or whether you don't like it or whether you like it. And basically, actually, it's done online. They move a slider, and so we get a number. Now, the participants, they get tired after a while, and so we can't show them all 980 images. And so we only show them 70, and each image I think is shown for like 40 seconds or so. And But by doing it that way, then we end up with, for each image, we get 10 responses, 10 participants, and roughly. So that's what we're going to do. And what do we learn from that? And so let's see. But did everybody get the idea? So a very simple setup. It's done online. So nowadays, you don't actually have to go out there and ask the people. So you do it online. There's subjects out there that do it for money. And they get $10, get paid $10 for this 1 hour of work. And we do attention checks in between, by the way. So we, which they actually don't know, but the sort of subtle attention checks, so we know whether they actually pay attention or whether they just do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, or that wouldn't be useful for us. And so that's what we do, and this is what we got. So here you see the mosAIcs. So these are all the 980 mosAIcs, and this is the average aesthetic value for the 10, because every image was seen by 10 participants. And so you see that, and you see, so well, what do we see? So first of all, we were happy the study kind of works in the sense that the participants use the whole range. So initially we were sort of cautious with it. We thought, well, what if they all just say, well, it's 3, 3, 3? Then that we wouldn't get much further. But what they actually do, we get roughly the whole range between 1 and 4. And as expected, as we just saw from these two participants here, we get different opinions, all right? And so that's what you see here is the average and how much it varies around the average, how much the responses vary around the average. For those math and nerdy guys in the room, that's the standard deviation. So the standard deviation, so what you see here in the gray is the standard deviation, and which is a measure how much the participants disagreed. And we will get back to that also later. And so there's some disagreement, and so now, of course, who wants to? Okay, go ahead.
How come some of those lines are above 4? Some of those columns at the top.
Yeah, right. It's a standard deviation. So it's the error. So so what it means is, so the average is the average. You're right, cannot be above 4, and but how much they vary can be higher, and so that's what we have there. And so, sorry. Obviously, now you wanted to know. Which images are they? Which images did they like? And which images did the participants not like on average? Okay, so we would like to know that. And so this is the first part where how the study could be useful in terms of feedback to the artist. As an artist, you might want to know what do people actually like. In the sense, if you're sort of like a business person, you want to sell your stuff, well, then it makes sense to make stuff that people like. And but if you just simply want to express, not simply, but if your preference is to express yourself and you don't care what the viewer thinks about it, well, that's a different, then this is useless. You don't need to look at this. So here we are. So you want to know what were the most liked mosAIcs, or what would be down here. And the most liked mosAIcs were these. And so they had an aesthetic value for 3.8, so very close to 4. And it's a pet. It's a pet. It's a dog. Everybody loves dogs, and everybody loves the figurative artwork about their pets. And I mean, it's not surprising, but that's also for mosAIcs, that's what popped out. Similarly, humans, looking at humans, especially in sort of like the reflective mood, is very much liked. And the interesting thing, it's not only that it's very much liked, it's also people agree on that. Everybody likes it, and so people agree on that a lot, and so the standard deviation is very low, and so here we are. So that is so if you want to sell your artwork, make pets. That's it. And now, if there's no pets here, so I will not. Well, maybe I will sell it later. But
what was the average standard deviation?
Oh, I see. So let's, I actually don't know exactly, but let's look at the range here. So we can get, by visual inspection, we get an idea. And so it's fairly large, so it's like 0.5 or more. It's sort of the average, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we will get to an example of 0.8 in a moment. And so good question, thank you. Mm-hmm. And so this was the most liked. Flowers also, as expected. Everybody loves flowers. Who has been to Art in Bloom? Art in Bloom at the Slam? Nobody yet. So this weekend is Art in Bloom at the St. Louis Art Museum. Is it cool?
Well, we're heading there after this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm holding you up. And it's, oh, the orchid show is cool, right?
Last weekend.
Yeah, okay, bingo. So everybody loves flowers. It's like a big draw into the art museum, which is why they're doing this. So like thousands of people going, cramming into the art museum. And in the, while they're looking at flowers, they're also looking at some artwork. And and yes, that is consistent with this study that people like flowers, like pets, they like people. And so again, if you want to sell it, that's what you should make. If you don't want to, if that's not your highest priority to sell your artwork, then maybe you don't. Then make something else. Make something that looks more abstract. And okay, so remember there were also the poor images down here. They're almost 1, and so the average is almost 1, and really, really didn't like it. And so what could it be? And there it is. That's the least liked mosaics. And aesthetic value of 1.4, also a pretty good agreement that the 10 participants, all of them didn't care much for it. And I actually like it. I think it's cool. And so it's very much, if you compare with this one. So now I know if I enter my mosaic into that study, the aesthetic value will be 1.4. And so now I know. And so I will not sell it. Maybe, I don't know, I would love to sell it. But we will see who likes this kind of stuff. And it turns out the artist who showed me how to do this, he's like crazy successful with this. So somehow it works. So somehow you can be successful. I'm not sure about successful in the sense of selling, but he is successful in getting it into like art shows. And so anyway, so there it is, this type of abstract work, least like. This one also an abstract work, least like. And so this one has more colors, and but it's still in the least like category. And basically people, I don't know, but okay, here's the difference. So 0.8. Okay, so here we have a standard deviation of 0.8. So meaning, even though it had such a low aesthetic value, the 10 participants did not agree on that. So some of them actually liked it. Okay, so it's just not everybody. And there we are. And okay, so now we have that. So we measured the aesthetic values. And the next step is we actually want to use the aesthetic value to predict the most liked mosaic. So we actually want to predict it. And so what we want, so we want to use this work or this database that we have now, and we want to use it to predict or to make a mosaic that is most liked. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, what we can do is we take a mosaic like that one, which happens to be this one here, any mosaic. So we take a mosaic and we decompose it into features. Okay, so we're going to decompose it into features of the mosaic. So what are features? So features in the mosaic are sort of how much color is in there? Well, obviously there's very little color in here. And how much contrast in there? Contrast is very little also. And how abstract it is? Well, it's crazy abstract and very little, it's not figurative. And does it sort of relate to some memory? Maybe not. And so on. So are there any semantic features, themes, objects? Well, objects maybe, so people think of rocks right away. And so those things. So we can identify features in images or mosaics that have a semantic meaning. And then we can actually go ahead, once we can identify the features, and we can say for each mosaic, we can say how strong that feature is in there. Okay. Then we show it to, we show this mosaic to participants. They give us an aesthetic value, a 3.4. Then we actually going to compute the aesthetic value. And so this is the only equation you will see today, by the way, so in case you worry where this is all going. And then we compute the weights, how strongly, how much do we need to change these weights for this feature so that the computed aesthetic value best matches the experimental aesthetic value. Okay? So then we get those weights out of there. Once we have the weights, then we can make a mosaic with all the features that that subject prefers. Okay, so let's say, one example, abstract. So this is very abstract. So then for abstract, if the feature is abstract, the weight and the subject really likes this, then the weight should be very high. So then we know the next mosaics that we make for that subject should be abstract. And so that is what we're going to do next, and so that will help us then with, in this communication loop to make a mosaic that that subject really likes. And it has to be done for individual subjects, because as we just learned earlier, even in this room, people cannot agree or have different opinions about the mosaic. And so to summarize this part of the project, and what we want to do is we want to study how the viewer, so we decompose the mosaic into its features, and then we show this to the viewer, and from the viewer's response and from the features, we can actually then compute how strongly this subject likes certain features. And this weight we feed that to the artist, and then the artist can make now a mosaic that better matches the preferences for this viewer. It's sort of like market research. So we basically do market research and on individual subjects, and then we give them what they want. It's just we compute what they want first. I mean, we compute these particular features, what they want. And that sort of provides another feedback loop here. Rather than talking to the viewer, talking to the artist, now the artist can get another a deeper insight of what viewers like. And so that's what we would like to do next. And so that's how we will use the database.
Yes, please.
How did you measure those components? Did you get impressions from subjects?
No, so, that's a good question, yeah. So the measuring the components is independent of the subject. So this measuring how strong a certain feature is in there, that has to be done separately. And that right, exactly. So for the simple things like contrast, we just have algorithms. So we just do image processing algorithms for simple stuff. Okay, so how much contrast is in there, we can quantify. For more complex things like memory or so, we have to ask artists. So we have to ask professionals, people who are professional artists, and we ask them to rate not how much they like it, but how much certain features are present in that image.
That sounds very complicated and very subjective.
It's actually not subjective, well, it's sort of subjective. So we will need multiple artists. You are totally right. And so we cannot just use one artist. We have to have a pool of artists to do this. Yep, thank you. That's a good point. And by the way, the student who's doing all of this, she just walked in. She is right there. There's Cici. And so there's Cici. So she is actually the student. She's on the team that I mentioned earlier. And she is doing all of this type of work. And all right, so thanks for the question. That's a good question. Another question.
Couldn't you ask AI to determine how much it looks like existing objects?
Totally. Yes, you're absolutely right. So very good. So in addition to us or you asking humans to determine these features and the strength of the features, we can put this into AI, and we will do that in parallel. Yeah.
Color and contrast.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And especially more abstract feature, more higher level features, so that AI will be perfect for that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So this that's the only slide on this topic of the features, because that's how far we got so far, and so we will get there. And but I wanted to emphasize sort of the component in this project here, that this opens up a new loop, an additional loop for the artist to communicate with the viewer, even though the viewer doesn't really know that. And so that will be important. Now we are ready to do the third project. And so now on the third project, what we are going to do is we're going to show the image to AI. But not just one AI. We're going to ask multiple AIs, and each one of them is a ChatGPT. And we call them agents. That people in that field, they call those things agents. And we give them an identity. So it's not just we take the off-the-shelf ChatGPT, but then we personalize it. It basically reads in a big file, and where we tell it what it is. So for example, we tell it to be a classic artist that is trained on Byzantine mosaic art and so on and so on. And we have an art historian. Obviously, art historian is trained on everything art. And then we have an experimental art, like contemporary mosaic artist. And we have an audience who is just stumbling into the museum, had no clue what's going on, but maybe they like something. And so maybe not. And we have a poet and who will sort of mess up the whole thing. And whatever, and poets are important. And what can human artists learn? So if these are, we initialize them first, then we have them, we feed them an image, and then we have them do a conversation. They will do a conversation about this image, and then we'll check how that works. So how well that works. We get to that in a moment. But the one purpose for doing this is now we can ask, the artist can listen into this conversation, and now get an idea, how do people actually, not people, but agents who are sort of metaphors for people in this case, how do they actually discuss my artwork? And we get multiple opinions because we have these 5 different personalities that we initialized. Okay, so now, so that's a plan. And agents, so initialize conversation, and then artist listens in. And so first we have to check whether this actually works. And first one, so as I said, we initialize each artist different. So let's start the classical artist. So we initialize this classic artist to be a Byzantine mosaic artist. And so that's what they do. Then we show them 70 images. So we show them 70 images from a spectrum of our database. And we ask the classic artist to give us the aesthetic values for those images. And then we look which one they like very much. And then it turns out, yes, very much indeed, the Byzantine mosaic, that's what this AI agent liked. And so then we say, oh, bingo, this could actually work. And then what they don't like is contemporary mosaic. Also good. Okay, so this initialization of the artist actually worked, of the agent worked. And I won't show you all the others, but we can test the others equally. But this one is sort of the most the easiest to test. So now, of course, now you're eager to learn. So what do they say? Right? What do they say? What do they say? And so now we're going to show them a mosaic. I made this also. And we showed them a mosaic, but this actually we didn't show them yet, but we showed them any mosaic. And then, by the way, this mosaic you don't see on display here, because I'm very proud to say that this is at an exhibit in Chicago right now that made it into a juried exhibit. And so this is super cool. And so somebody liked it. And anyway, so these agents, we feed them an image, and then we check in their we have them do the conversation, and we check on them. Okay, here's the image actually that we did show them. And this is Fitzgerald. She is a mosaic artist, very well established mosaic artist. We took one of her images, and so now you can form your own. Before I show you the conversation, you can form your own opinion, how much you like it or what you like about it. And so you can have sort of a conversation in your head, what you think about this piece. And obviously it is sort of a mosaic. And to guide, not to guide you, I shouldn't guide you. I shouldn't have put these numbers here, sorry. Let's think of that's blocked out, otherwise it biases your opinion now. And so you have your own opinion now, what you think about this. And this is what the classic agent said. So the composition suffers from a lack of, remember this is a classic, right? So this is Byzantine art. He likes Byzantine art, religious, gold, and very figurative. And now this poor agent has to look at this stuff. And it says the composition suffers from a lack of balance and symmetry, presenting a chaotic arrangement that detracts from the viewer's experience. The tessera are these small pieces. So this is the tessera. So it's the small pieces that we use for mosaic making. So the tessera are cut with some competence. So this artist is actually this agent is respectful, saying what is the pros and cons, right? And so first finds it chaotic, but at least the individual pieces are cut with some competence, yet the alignment is inconsistent. Well, it's not Byzantine, right? And so that's what that agent then thinks. It's not aligned, inconsistent, leading to a disjointed visual narrative. The subject matter appears confused, lacking a clear thematic focus, which diminishes emotional resonance. Overall, the mosaic feels more decorative than reverent. I mean, this is the worst that you, as an artist, you'd never want to hear that. And you don't want to be called decorative. And failing to inspire the viewer as a sacred or mythological piece, obviously, the classic artist wants a mythological piece. He wants religion in there. And that's could be useful.
That's what you'd expect, right?
That's what you would expect, right? But what would you expect from now? Let's listen to the others. And so here's and I'm just going to do these two because they're the most extreme. And this is what we call the experimental artist, or the contemporary mosaic artist. And this gives, by the way, the scores are different also. This one gave it an aesthetic value of 1.6, very different from what humans did. So this also was done in the human study. And although there was some different opinions in the human study, and the experimental, contemporary mosaic art gave it a higher score, but also not even close to the human. Anyway, so this one says this mosaic presents an intriguing conceptual intent. That's a positive way of saying it, with its abstract patterns and daring color choices. However, the composition feels somewhat cluttered. That sort of resonates with what the other agent said. Lacking a clear focal point that could enhance viewer engagement. The craftsmanship is competent, but this one said that also, but shows signs of inconsistency, is very similar, which detracts from the overall polish, while the emotional resonance is present. So they disagree on that one. This one said there's no resonance, no diminished emotional resonance. He says this one says emotional resonance is present. It doesn't fully transcend into something memorable, leaving the viewer wanting more depth and cohesion. So there we are. And so this is useful, could be useful. If you are the artist, maybe not when you have the complete mosaic done, but maybe in an earlier draft, you get some feedback. And then if you say, well, if you get the feedback that what is missing here, then you can change it. And so this could indeed be a useful thing. So then these agents, I'm not going to go through too much. I will not show you any more of the conversation, but then they go through multiple iterations. So they talk to each other, and we wanted to know whether whether they only talk or whether they also listen. Meaning, do they read each other's comments? Because that was the idea. And and how would we check that? Well, we would check in the next round. Once they have read each other's opinion, would their opinion change? Yeah.
Was the experimental artist agent the highest rated of the AI agents?
I actually don't remember now, so I'm not sure. Good question.
Because I like it, and
Sure, why not?
and the average score was higher.
Right.
So I actually don't remember what the poets.
Humans like it better than machines.
Right. Yeah, right.
And apparently. And anyway, so we want to know whether they actually talk to it, not only talk, but also listen. And so meaning, do they actually, in the next round of their comments, do we see a change? Do we see any changes in their comments? And so we will not read the comments, but we just check whether their aesthetic values change. And and this is, here you see, the change in aesthetic value from the first conversation, when they first time see it, to the second conversation, when they already read the other comments from their buddies, basically, the agent buddies. And what we see... Yeah, no, you first. You asked lots of questions.
How do they converse?
So they literally read the
Paste?
yes. Well, it's automated. Yeah. So it's automated. In principle, you're right. In principle, you could just open multiple agents or multiple ChatGPT and then copy and paste. In practice, that is not useful. And so there is an API, it's called API platform, and that helps to integrate the different ChatGPTs so that we can feed the conversation to each other. Yeah.
Okay, question.
Oddly, that was my same question.
Well, you two, are you married?
Not yet.
Oh, wow, cool. This is getting interesting. So the point is, it's not zero. Okay, so for most images and agents, so that we're showing here, so the change in aesthetic value is actually quite substantial. And so there's quite a few who change the aesthetic value either into the negative or into positive, but by even as far as 1. And so that's quite a significant change, and that's just only through one conversation. And so in that sense, this also works. Okay, so it's not only what works was the initialization. What also works is well, that the conversation is useful, maybe for the artist to read, and third, that they actually listen to each other, and so that there could be something emergent happening in there.
So this was just one conversation, just one exchange?
Turn. Right,
not
exactly. One
Wow.
turn.
And so now we actually go to multiple turns, so we have them run multiple turns, but what we realize is, so this is the disagreement, this is a measure of the disagreement in terms of the aesthetic value, and there's a big drop, I mean there's a large disagreement, fairly large disagreement, and the first time, but then after the first conversation it drops, and then what we didn't really expect, but apparently what happens is then they don't change their opinion any further. So it's just, it drops from 1 to 2, which is great, and then it doesn't change any further. And so to summarize then, what we did here in this project, we take a human-made mosaic, we feed it into this group of agents. We have these agents do their conversation. We know it works, they change opinion and so on, and it's a reasonable conversation. And now the artist can read this conversation and use it to change their designs for future mosaics. And so this could indeed be a useful thing to do. And so now you might wonder, well, how about we use these agents to make mosaics? And so if they're talking about it, maybe we sort of add an artist in here who actually makes it. And so we haven't gotten that far yet, but what I'm going to show you in the next project is where we just take 2 agents, where one of them makes art and the other one is the teacher or critic. And so this is the next project here. So there's no more humans involved here. So we have one agent is an artist. Actually, it's sort of like a student, sort of blank sheet of paper, so to speak. And this student wants to learn how to make this agent. Wants to learn this. I humanize it too much. It's this agent will be trained to make mosaic through the art AI teacher or critic, and this one is personalized. So we initialize this agent to be, in this case, a Byzantine type classical artist, mosaic artist. And so then this agent makes a mosaic, this agent looks at the mosaic, and then feeds its comment back to the agent artist, and they go loop around until something emerges. Whether it will be a mosaic or not, we'll see. And so that's a plan. A little bit more detail. So this is an artist. We take a standard large language model like a ChatGPT, and we tell it what they are, what it is. And so it's so tricky to talk about this. We always use he, she, they, but it's wrong, right? And we don't want to humanize this. It's not a human, it's a machine. And so the only word that's proper is it. But I apologize if sometimes I slip into this they. And but it's it. And so it is initialized by their personality, by their talking style, and their skills. And so very similar to what I explained earlier, when we initialize the agents in the group, and this one is just those 2. Then this is how the 2 agents talk to each other. So the AI artist starts, and this agent makes a text prompt. Then they actually don't make their own image. We send the text prompt to DALL-E, which is standard image generation AI, and we send the text prompt and the image both to the AI teacher or agent teacher. And then the agent teacher sends back an aesthetic value, a score, how much they like it, and it sends back a text feedback. And in the interest of time, because running short, I'm not going to show you all the feedback and stuff, but I'm just going to show you what happens when they do this a few times. And this is what you see. So this gives you an idea. So the score for the first few iterations kind of goes up and down. And then eventually they settle. And the score settles from the score from the critic agent. And then the resulting image is indeed a mosaic. And so it's not a super interesting mosaic. It's I mean it's nice. So I guess people would call it decorative. Perhaps it's a nice sunset. It's a nice sort of seascape and stuff. And so that's pretty cool. A few stars and a starry night and so on. And so the point is it works. And so now we will work on this further, and we probably, now that we know it works, we will implement this into the group of the 5 agents, and so to get more depth in there. And and then hopefully, since, as you know, the series here is about emergent properties, and so what the goal is to have mosaics, emergent mosaics coming out of this that are somewhat different from what humans would make. So that would be interesting, but there's something new popping out, and so that is the plan. And so that leads us to the summary of Project 4, where we have the agent artist, the agent critic, they noodle around, make mosaics. Now, this could then be used, this image could then be used by the artist to make actually a mosaic, and the artist could guide this conversation by telling the agent critic what they actually want. So they could initialize that agent critic to tell them what the preferences are. And so then they noodle through this and they eventually make a mosaic out of that. And so that could be useful in this conversation. So now we have another pathway for this conversation. We're going from here through this agents here, and then we go from here to the viewer, and then the viewer comes back here and so on. And so that completes project, not completes, but that tells you where we are heading with this project. And that all together leads us now to the overall summary. And so remember what our goal was. So we started with sort of realizing that there is a system, the artist, the artwork, and the viewer, they form a system or communication system. And we would like to see to what extent generative AI and science can assist or enhance this communication. And so I illustrated that in 4 projects to you. And this is sort of the summary that comes out of this, and how we see that the communication between the artist and the viewer can be enhanced through computational aesthetics studies, which can be fed into the artist itself. It could be fed into ChatGPT, or through using this route where we just use ChatGPT to design or make text prompts, or we go around through listening to how the agents talk about the artwork, or we go through this where we actually make mosaic drafts and feed that to the artist, who then makes mosaics, who then is fed to these agents, who is then fed into this ChatGPT, and so on. It's basically, the point is, it's a dynamic. We created a dynamic system, and out of this, we're in the dynamic system that includes the human artist, the human viewer, and it includes agents. And so now, of course, you are all curious, where will this go? And so the last slide, this is where it's going to go. So now, since we have it all set up, we actually invited artists to work with us. And to our surprise, there were actually quite a few artists very open to this. And so these are 4 artists, and instead of showing their pictures, I'm showing their typical artwork here. So they're actually not mosaic artists, but they're artists. and they have a strong art experience, and they're very well established. And they would like to work with us on this mosAIc and brAIns collaborative. And we settled just last week on a topic that so we want to make our first mosAIc. And the topic is the evolution of human identity in the age of AI, by using AI for making the mosAIc. And so that sort of brings us all, into circles here. And and I had a wonderful discussion with these artists. I mean, they look at this in so many different ways, and it was really nice. And so this mosAIc will be completed by March 14. We actually set ourselves deadlines, and and then you are absolutely invited to receive updates on this project and of this emerging mosAIc. And so with that, I invite you later to look at this mosAIcs that I made. And if you would like to take home a souvenir, you are welcome to purchase these mosAIcs here. So thank you very much.